Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Vols Society Live on this Tuesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vols Society Network, here to welcome you in to another episode of Vols Society Live. As I mentioned, this is Gator Hater Week, as Tennessee's getting ready to take on the Florida Gators. 7 o'clock kickoff down at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium this Saturday night. It's been 20 years since Tennessee has won at the Swamp. Could they finally snap that long losing streak going down there? Our founder Brad is in the chat room. Says Gator Hater Week, baby. Indeed it is. Go ahead and Joni with a Gator Hater. And yeah, if you want to be like Brad and Joni, I just read two of their comments. Uh, Wherever you're watching us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, go ahead, leave your comments. The chat room is open. Leave your comments, your questions. This is your chance to be heard. This is not just a David Morrison show or necessarily a Vol Society show. This is your chance to be heard. Say what you think about this week. We'll talk about the game in general, recap last week. Brad says, where's everybody watching from tonight? Steve giving us the big orange emojis on the Facebook page. Go ahead and give some early shout outs. Shout out to my dad, leaving us a like on Facebook, along with Becky, Joni, Clyde, and James, and Marion and Nettie. Early likes and loves on the Facebook page. Like I said, this is your chance to show tonight. Joni, I'm sorry, watching us from Atlanta tonight. So appreciate you tuning in on this Tuesday night. Like I said, big week coming up, big game coming up, and we'll dive into the Florida game pretty much throughout this evening. We'll go ahead and kind of recap last week. I hope you make sure you listen to the podcast. Today was dropped. Go ahead and pop that up right here. Yeah, the official Good Old Rocky Talk. We talked a lot about the Florida game, and we also recapped last Saturday's game against Austin Peay. Is Joe Milton the guy? Is he going to continue on at quarterback? Like I said, it's a very a good topic to discuss for the most part. Jason saying, I pray this is the game we put everything together. Go Vols, baby. Brad saying, Vols had me scared after that last performance. And Becky watching us from Cape Coral, Florida, but I'm a Vol fan. My son is a freshman this year. Go Big Orange. Awesome. Glad you joined us. Go ahead and pull up the stats from last Saturday really quick here. So Tennessee took on Austin Peay on Saturday night. I was there live and in person. It was kind of a wild and wacky night, to say the least. Everything kind of going crazy. Patricia watching us from Clarksville, Florida. Hello, Patricia. Um, yeah, so like I said, I was up there. It was kind of just a wild evening for the most part, especially kind of before the game, trying to get in. They're doing some renovations. With the stadium. So if you're planning on going to a game this year, I mentioned this on the podcast. They kind of like rerouting the path to get into the stadium. So kind of had to be a little more patient to try to get into Neyland Stadium this year. It was kind of hectic a little bit there. Once you got settled in, you were ready to good to go. There's Wi-Fi in there, so if you want to check on other scores or text or call people, it's very great out there. So that's a positive. But then the game, it was interesting with Joe Milton in the first half, kind of inept. It almost felt like Tennessee turning back the clock 10 years, which is not a good thing in the first half, struggling. But just not a good performance in the first half. But like I said, Tennessee held their own. And give credit to Austin Peay. Austin Peay, they came out there and, this was their Super Bowl. This was their chance to really make a statement on a semi-national stage. I'm sure a lot of these kids that played on Austin Peay wanted to play at Tennessee, so it's kind of like a get back at them. And Scotty Walden, who's the Austin Peay head coach, is a very energetic coach, and probably he really rallied the troops to it. Let's see here. Somebody asked about the line. Marion asked, what's the early line? Right now, the line is Tennessee's a 6.5-point favorite against Florida. It was at 8, so it looks like it has dropped some. since Florida. Go back and read some of your comments here. Steve says, which Milton will show up this week in Orange Bowl Joe or maybe the one we saw Saturday? Hopefully it's Orange Bowl Joe. This is a big game for Joe Milton. Joe has played road games before, but, in 2020 when he was at Michigan was during the shortened season and there was no fans in the attendance. So he didn't really play in front of a hostile territory. And then since he's been the starter at Tennessee, he played played on the road against Vanderbilt. It let's be honest, it was 95% Tennessee fans. So this is the first time where Joe Milton has really played a true road game in his Tennessee career, really in his college football career. So he's going to have to really get everything squared away and remove the distractions. And Jason says, no reason to worry. Milton doesn't lose in Florida. That is true. So hopefully he can continue in that direction. But we'll see. I know Brad made an earlier comment, says, anyone think Milton can get the job done this year? And, he's Brad's a little nervous as you kind of listen on the podcast. But it's this is a big game for Joe Milton and really the team in general. And I know Dee's mentioned this on the podcast. He feels very confident about the running game, as I do too. If we can get that running game going and don't make too many mistakes, pre-snap penalties, holding calls. I know the officiating was atrocious Saturday, especially when we really simplified the playbook in the second half and really tried to really help Joe out and get the offense in some sort of a direction. A lot of calls are going against us that was not uh, uh, anywhere near what they should have been called. Those holding calls were terrible. The Squirrel White didn't get called for pass interference in the end zone. It just on and on. The fumble that got reverse from Aaron Beasley picked it up, and even the Squirrel White catch towards the 1 yard line. We can go on and on about them officials, but that game's in the past. Hopefully, we'll never see them again. Continuing on, chat says, "Good evening, Vols." Ed said, it says he's got to become a game player and not a practice player. Yeah, that's going to be a big deal right there. Let's see. Brad agrees. Let's see here. And Brad continues on. It says, Saturday we will know what kind of team we have, and sloppy the entire night. Even the announcers were sloppy. Yeah, that's what we didn't mention on the podcast. We talked about that one after the show. I didn't get to hear the announcers, and I hadn't went back and rewatched it, but I heard they were not that good at all. So, and like I said, anytime your game gets moved to SEC plus, chances are you're not going to get the best announcers and the best best production crew. It's kind of like actually, I would probably even say some high school football streams look probably better than what they have, which is crazy to think of ESPN and Disney being a multi-million-dollar company. But that's another story for another day. Jason says, Jalen Wright is averaging 9.3 yards per attempt. With Coop back, we need to pound the ball and capitalize on play action, downfield shots. Receivers have to make plays. Absolutely. I agree everything you said there, Jason. Jalen Wright's having a great year. Had a great game against Virginia, went over 100 yards. Let's see if I think I still got the Austin P stats here. Actually, I got to go back. What he did Saturday. Jalen Wright Saturday. Yeah, he went 118 yards against Austin P. Jabari Small just came short of 100. He was 95. But yeah, I think when getting Coop back, I don't know if he's going to be coming back. Josh Heupel's very cryptic about that, if he was going to come back. But it's going to be. I don't know if it'll be a game time decision, but if he plays, that's great. If not, then I feel confident in Ollie Lane and the rest of the offensive line doing okay. And yeah, the receivers need to make plays. I know we talked about Joe Milton and his inconsistency, and I just want Joe Milton to be solid throughout this game. But our receivers do need to make some plays. They've been kind of a disappointment this year. looking at, I mean, Ramel Keaton did get a touchdown Saturday, and so did McAllen Castles. I was happy for McAllen Castles getting it, a touchdown. And then even like last week, it was like Jacob Warren had one. So I mean, I want to see Brew really step up. I want to see Mel Keaton continue on. Squirrel White. And Brad says Dante has been disappointing. Yeah, I mean, where's Dante Thornton been? I mean, it's just the offense is just not. I mean, it's been clicking, but it's not where we expect it to be at this time. So we'll see. Randy watching us from Lexington, North Carolina. Go Vols, originally from Chattanooga. Uh, Grandparents watching along. Hello to them. Um, Bill says Aaron Beasley was a beast Saturday. Excited to see our defense flex its muscles on the Gators. Yeah, I'm loving Aaron Beasley so far this year. He has just done a fantastic job. I mean, watching him Saturday, he was lined up everywhere. He's lined up at linebacker, lined up as a safety, a corner. He's just kind of a gadget all over the field on defense. I mean, if he continues up, Bill, he's going to be an All-American by the end of the season. Brad says, whenever we guess, I would be concerned about our offense and not the defense. Crazy. I know. That's just the roles have reversed. Kevin watching us tonight says, we will be fine. I have a feeling everything is going to click finally with the offense, defense, and keep balling out. I hope so. Definitely. It says, defense, baby, we got it, go. Or we got it. Go Vols. There we go. And then Brad mentioned about the podcast. Good old Rocky Top. Find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a big game coming up, and hopefully get everything squared away. I mean, Florida, the last time the national audience really paid attention to Florida, they were getting embarrassed by Utah. Hopefully that can continue on this week. They did play McNeese State and won their game. But you can't really take much out of it in that game. So we'll see. I mean, I do have their numbers if you're curious. Like Graham Mertz right now, so far in the year, 526 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He has been sacked 5 times this year. Would like to bring some pressure on him, and I think Tim Banks is going to really dial up and go after Graham Mertz. I thought we didn't have a lot of pass rush against Austin Peay, and I've kind of noticed that a little bit with Tim Banks. It's we'll dial up and we'll pressure the quarterback one week, and then we kind of settle back the next. So, but it's interesting. The two running backs for Florida, Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, both with 18 carries on the year. Johnson has 125 yards, 2 touchdowns. Etienne 109, both averaging 6 yards a carry. Ricky Pearsall, who was a thorn to the side Tennessee last year, having a great year so far. He's already got 14 catches for 215 yards, only 1 touchdown, but be interesting to see if like Kamal Haddon or Danico Slaughter matches up with him and try to stop him, and we'll see from there. Defensively, the leading tackler so far is James, a linebacker with 19 tackles. Brad's asking if anyone's going to the game down to the Swamp. Be interesting. And also, don't forget your score predictions. What do you think? Who's going to win the game? Right now, I have Tennessee winning 28-24. It wouldn't shock me if it's like 30-24. Tennessee wins by a touchdown. But I think it's going to be a very scrappy game. Kevin says, I heard it's a really bad atmosphere in the Swamp if you're a Tennessee fan. Yeah, I've heard that too. And Brad says it's brutal. I think Brad has a brother that was in the Pride of the Southland band 20 years ago. He can attest to that too. Brad's going 34-30 Vols on Saturday. Like I said, it's been 20 years since we've won at the Swamp, so definitely time to get one down there. We probably should have had a couple of wins down there already. Just crazy stuff have happened in the past. Go ahead and kind of look at some Tennessee stats really quick, but continue. Please chime in and your score predictions and comments and questions. Kevin going 44-24 Vols. But right now, to kind of look at some of the stats after 2 games, Brad says the fans used to throw bottles of urine at the band when they got off the bus. Awful fans. Yeah, that was. I remember him telling me that. Brad's brother. Uh, yeah, pretty bad. Anyway, so looking at stats. So Joe Milton on the year so far, uh, 42 for 63, 429 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions so far. Completion percentage. That's matter of fact, his completion percentage is the same thing as Nico's right now, 66.7. Nico, of course, played in the Virginia game, went 2 for 3 for 11 yards, which averaged 66.7. So very interesting. After 2 weeks, they both have the same completion percentage. Uh, Rushing attempts so far, or rushing yardage, I should say. Jalen Wright, 233 yards, averaging 9.3 yards per carry. One of our uh, fans told us about that. No rushing touchdowns so far for Jalen Wright so far. Jabari Small, 26 carries, 162 yards, averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Still no touchdowns for him. Dylan Sampson, who's got most of the touchdowns, 16 carries, 60 yards, 3 touchdowns. Joe Milton, 12 carries, 40 yards, 3 touchdowns himself. Um, Nico did have an 8-yard run. And then wide receivers, Ramel Keaton, 8 catches, 118 yards, and a touchdown so far. Squirrel White, 10 catches, 75 yards. Still no touchdowns. Brew McCoy, 7 catches, 72 yards. McCalla Castles, 2 catches, 59 yards, a touchdown. Uh, and then you kind of go down the running backs a little bit. Dante Thornton, I want to see him really step up. 2 catches, 12 yards on the year. Continue on your score predictions. Bill says 30-28 Tennessee. Over under is 59.5. I think it stays under. Kevin says some of our fans tag Joe Milton's mom and some of our Vol groups bashing him. Shake my head. I think Joe is going to show them this weekend. Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Even if you're a Tennessee fan, don't tag players' parents. That's just juvenile. That Don't do that. That's just juvenile behavior. Don't these are still players. And those are not true ball fans. I'll just say that. Man, that's terrible. Thanks for showing. Thanks for telling us that, Kevin. Even though it's not good news. Um, yeah, awful. Um, anyways, so like I said, this is a big game. Yeah, everybody's agreeing terrible. Um, yeah. Uh, yeah. Continuing on with this game. I'm excited to see what our defense can do. Like I said, our defense has really stepped up the last 2 weeks. I mean, really, this whole year so far. We've mentioned the defense is what's keeping us in the games, and the offense, not so much at times. Like I said, we mentioned Aaron Beasley. Aaron Beasley has played very well. I still like James Pierce and Tyler Barron. They're really done a great job on the defensive line, and Omari Thomas. So we got a really good defensive line. Omar Norman Lott has done very well. This group, Brad said, this group will never do that. Ball Society has class, absolutely. I did notice a little concern in the middle linebacker position, and I mentioned this on the podcast. Not having Keenan Peely at middle linebacker, the transfer from BYU, really, I thought, hurt us at times. And Austin P took some advantages with some passes over the middle and kind of some missed tackles for some of our linebackers. And, we tried Elijah Herring. Elijah Herring did all right. Aaron Carter, the true freshman, did good at times. Jack Janzik, I thought at times looked kind of lost in the shuffle. It's I'm interested to see how that middle linebacker position is going to do. I mean, I think obviously you got Aaron Beasley, and I'm not worried about him. But just kind of that second linebacker, and like I said, Tennessee only uses 2 linebackers in their defensive package. So it's going to be interesting to see, can Florida capitalize on that, and who could step up for us? Can Harry finally get some big plays, or Arian Carter, or maybe one of the safeties can move up and fulfill that slot at times? Like I said, for Florida, what I'm not expecting them to sling the rock around. Um, I think Mertz had like 334 yards against Utah, which I made the joke like I have no idea how he did that. Uh, but now he's got 526, so obviously he didn't do much against McNeese State. So, you know, I want to see Tim Banks, I want to see Rodney Gardner and that defensive staff bring a lot of pressure to Mertz on Saturday, try to make him feel uncomfortable, try to get him out of the game, and like I said, I feel confident in even like kind of shutting down the running backs a little bit. This is the toughest running back group we're going to meet, not only so far this season, but definitely maybe one of the rest of the season. Maybe besides Georgia and I guess Bama, but Johnson and ETN are they're not the running backs we saw against Virginia, definitely not the running backs we saw against Austin P. But I think we can hold our own against them. Ricky Pearsall, Marcus Burke, Eugene Wilson. That's those wide receivers. Interesting to continue to see hold their own against them. Our secondary. This is where I think our secondary is at times going to really see if they've made an improvement. Kamal Haddon has done a decent job this year. Uh, stay holding his own. He did get an interception last week, so that's good. It seems like he's finally improving somewhat. Did get burned a little bit. I know Gay Judy Lawley got burned very badly on one play last Saturday. It's just I just want to see can that secondary really step up. All right. So, any other comments or questions? Continue on. Give some more shout outs here. Shout out to Corey and Patty and Jana and Ed, Kevin, Sandra, Lori. Let's see here. My grandmother and Betsy and Bill giving us a like on the Facebook page. Like I say, continue these comments and questions. Uh, whatever you have on your mind. Um, I guess we'll go ahead and talk about this too. This is a big week and brings up a lot of great memories and moments for us. So I asked the chat room, what's your favorite Tennessee Florida game so far in this series? Is it the '98 game? Is it 2001, 2003, 16? Last year, I'll go ahead and kind of answer. We had a question on the podcast about it, so I'll go ahead and answer mine. Uh, I'll go back and start with last year. Brad says 2004 at home and '98. Uh, yeah, I'll start with last year's game. We had a lot of fun last year with our Vol Society crew. We went to the game last year. College game day was there. We walked through game day during kind of the tail end of it, and then we went to Josh Dobbs' tailgate party, uh, which it says in the monsoon. Y'all know, yeah, that was. I do remember that a little bit. Um, yeah, we walked. We walked. We went. Now it's called the Players Lounge. Had a different name last year, but that's. But Josh Dobbs had a little tailgate party. That was cool meeting him, having pictures made, and they had food and drinks and stuff. And then going to the ball walk and really close to the ball walk, and then the game, and where Hendon Hooker really broke out and started his magical season. It was a back and forth game. It was a nail biter. At times frustrating, but it sealed up with a nice win. I remember the Tennessee fans doing the Gator chomp to the Florida fans as they were leaving, uh, which we thought it was pretty much sealed and done. So that was a lot of fun last year. Just such a great game. That's one of those games I go back and rewatch from time to time. Um, 2016, the comeback game, Tennessee was down to Florida, came back and won over the Gators. I remember Ethan Wolf had a touchdown in the second half that kind of started the rally, and then we had the Jawan Jennings juggle catch in that one, and then Josh Mullen had a big touchdown. Of course, that was the whole Tease Taylor uh, quote, like the only way Tennessee or you got a better chance of a duck pulling a truck then Tennessee beating Florida and end up winning that one. So that was a good one. Chris says, I'm for Bazooka Joe. Let's go, young man. It's time to shine. Prove all your haters wrong. Go Big Orange. Absolutely. I would love to see Joe Milton really step up big. Brad mentioned 2004 at home. That was Eric Age and Brett Schaefer's freshman year. Uh, Florida just started this was the either the last year of Ron Zook or the next to last year of Ron Zook before Urban took over. Yeah, that was a pretty wild game. The James Will Hoyt kick. He missed the extra point, and then end up redeeming himself and kicking basically the game-winning field goal. That was so much fun. I mentioned on the podcast too. I remember going to Hibbett Sports that morning of that game and ended up getting a Brett Schaefer jersey, which then Brett Schaefer ended up transferring a year later. I still have the jersey, um, and ended up getting a Eric Age later on. But that was a good year. 98, obviously probably the best game of the whole series run. The original tearing down the field goal post and throwing them in the Tennessee River. You snap the long losing streak to Florida. Finally beat Steve Spurrier for the first time in a long time. The no siree kick, game in overtime, uh, and then which ended up winning the national championship out of that. Brad says I can still hear John Ward now. Um, yeah, like Jesse Palmer was the quarterback. Actually, I think they were swapping quarterbacks. It was Jesse Palmer and maybe Rex Grossman, I guess, was the other one for Florida. Um, and then T. Martin was the quarterback. Travis, you still had Jamal Lewis at running back. Of course, he ended up unfortunately getting injured the next week against Houston. Travis Henry, Travis Stevens, Peerless Price, Al Wilson, Raynot Thompson, and just so many legendary VFLs. I know I'm missing several, but just some off the top of my head. I I will say this. I remember. I think it was during the pandemic, or maybe another time that I remember the SEC network rerunning that game or replaying that game, and for some crazy reason they kept in a King of Queens commercial for their premiere, and that always just kind of cracked me up. Just thinking, man, that show's 25 years old, but it's funny they didn't edit it out. So little humorous there, but what else is there? I mean, so many of them. Somebody mentioned the downpour. Ed mentioned the downpour. That was in the early '90s. That was a big one. You had the blowout win, I think in '90 or '91 at Neyland. Just so many. Nicholas says Tennessee will win if our defense shows up like the first two games. This is going to be one of these years where the defense can win as long as the offense doesn't give it away. Our defense is one of the better ones of the league. Yeah, that is true, Nicholas. Like I said, the defense has really held their own the first 2 weeks. Really kind of put us in the position where we're at. Um, you know, the, and then, like I said, the offense doesn't give away. Yeah, we can't have the quick three and outs on Saturday, like we saw the first couple of, or especially last week was very noticeable. We really need to get out early in the first quarter. We've really struggled in the first quarter, really in the first half, somewhat in the first 2 weeks of the season, especially in the first quarter. Although I think we did get an opening drive touchdown against Virginia, but still, be consistent in the first quarter, really drive the ball down the field, and make Florida feel pressure to try to come back. Because I just don't see Florida want to get. I don't see Florida getting in a shootout with us. They're just not that type of team. I mean, I know last year with Anthony Richardson, they tried, and Anthony Richardson is a different playmaker compared to Graham Mertz, but you know AR-15 is not going to be out there. It's going to be GM-15 out there on Saturday, and they're totally two opposite quarterbacks that you're going to see. Um, but it's going to be a battle down there. This is a big game for both teams. you look at it from our perspective to go to 3-0, snap the long losing streak to Florida down at the Swamp. Uh, Second year in a row you've beaten Florida. First time. I mean, since the Philip Fulmer days, you haven't beat Florida 2 years in a row since Fulmer was there in '03 and '04, if I'm doing the math correct. Uh, and then if you look at it from Florida's perspective, this will be a signature win for Billy Napier. I mean, he's still looking for that big time win over a big time rival, and he has an opportunity. Obviously, we want to continue the agony with him, but yeah, this is a big game for Billy Napier and the Gators, especially Florida fans kind of sour on him really since the beginning. Right, says a huge game for Billy. Absolutely. I'm not saying that he's going to be fired the next day, but still, you're in the second year and you're trying to find a signature win, and Florida doesn't have too many opportunities after us. I mean, they get Georgia down in Jacksonville, but I think a lot of people's counting that as a win. They do get LSU. I can't remember where it's at now. I believe it's in Baton Rouge, but there's not too many big time opportunities for Billy Napier to get that signature win. Um, but here's a chance right here. But like I said, we all agree we want to see the Vols win on Saturday. Continue those comments and questions coming along. Like I said, this is our Gator Hater Week. Like I said, make sure you listen to the podcast over an hour long, recapping the Austin Peay game last week. Talk about Florida. Uh, Talk some memories, just like I did a few minutes there. Uh, I'll say this: who do you think's going to be the impact player or the MVP of the game? Who's going to really break out? Is Joe Milton going to be the guy that really breaks out? Is it going to be one of the running backs, defensive players? Is our wide receivers going to finally step up? One of them really break out. Best thing to come out of Gainesville, I-75. That was our Gator Hater joke today. Kevin says, I rewatched our last game. We had a lot of drops and bad throws from Joe's. Refs were horrible, but we were off on offense, but just a few misses, and we could have been 3 or more touchdowns added to what we had. Absolutely. Yeah, the drop passes really hurt us, Kevin. I mean, that should have been a bigger margin of victory than what we had. Um, I mean, like, I can't remember now who dropped the pass in the end zone. I think it was Keaton, I believe, who had it. But yeah, there was 2 or 3 that could have really swung the game open big time. But like I said, his Joe's finesse needs to be better as far as his touches and his passes go. And even I would even say this. I truly believe just the body language and just Tennessee just looked. They overlooked Austin Peay, and they overlooked Austin Peay and looked ahead to Florida. They were prepared more for Florida than they were for Austin Peay, and you kind of saw that, and even the weather delay kind of threw the routine off a little bit, although it was only a 30-minute weather delay. Like the whole game was just kind of in a weird funk for the most part. Colin says, talking about Kevin, so many good throws and literally bounced off hands. It was unreal. Yeah, we can't have that. And I'm afraid one of those bounces off the hands could end up becoming an interception and taken the other way. Uh, those bounces can go either way. So thankfully, it hasn't affected us so far as major turnovers go. Although, yeah, well, I mean, D's already got a fumble on the punt return against Virginia. Um, yeah, we gotta be finesse on the offense. Any others? Like I said, here's your chance to really shine here. And bring those questions, those comments. Continue your score predictions, especially if you join along. If you want to drop your score predictions, go ahead and leave it in the comments. We'll read it on air. But trying to think of some other things to kind of watch out for. Let's see. Joey checking in says, "What do you think the score will be?" I'm going with Tennessee. I'm saying like 28-24, although I may bump that up to like 30-24 Tennessee, kind of under right at the Vegas number. For some reason, just drew a blank. I couldn't remember the name of it. The spread. There we go. Yeah, I had to dig it out of the file there. What the spread is. Brad, our founder Brad saying 34-30 Vols. Yeah, it's just I think a lot of Tennessee fans are unanimous thinking we're going to win. It's just going to be kind of close. Um, you know, unless you're Uncle Lou, the Georgia fan, who thinks we're still going to win by 20, which I like his optimism, even as from a Georgia fan perspective. Um, yeah, it's going to be a battle. It's going to be ugly. It's a rival game. You may see a fight. Hopefully not. But like I said, this is a big game for both teams. Both big game for Florida and for Billy Napier to get a signature win. Big game for Tennessee and Josh Heupel to continue their undefeated streak. Like I said, that now we're hitting those early conference games. There's 3 conference games this weekend that I know off the top of my head. Our game. Then you got Georgia, South Carolina, and LSU, Mississippi State. Um, let's folks coming here. So yeah, just like I said, big game coming up. Phil says, "Hi David, love your hat. Thank you. Is Cooper playing this weekend?" It's hard to say. Josh Heupel didn't really give a yes or no answer if he's playing. He said that he warmed up with the team last week, but they made a coaching decision at the last minute to make him not play. It's hard to say. I say he's questionable for the most part. I would love for him to play on Saturday, but at the same time, our offensive line, especially in the rush, has done a pretty good job as far as opening holes for our running backs. That's been the strength of the offense is the running game. The passing game has not been accurate. It can be better, but it's. I think it wouldn't shock me if he doesn't play. Brad says 50-50 at this point. Yeah, it's kind of up in the air. He's to be questionable. Kevin says, I think our coach is going to put a stamp on this game. Mark my words, we're going to open up the playbook wide open. I think so too. I think we're really going to do it. I mean, we were very. I don't think like we were very vanilla against Virginia, which I kind of expected us to be, and we were against Austin Peay too. Austin Peay, they opened up their entire playbook and revealed everything. Like I said, this was even though they knew they weren't going to win the game, they were going to make a statement, and by golly, they made a statement. Um, it was just wild. But I think I can definitely see that Kevin just opening up the playbook and letting it all go. Brad says we haven't won the swamp in 20 years. That's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, we talked about the wins, but man, we've had some heartbreaking losses uh, down there. I mean, the Hail Mary and the fourth down play where Florida scored to end up winning or took the lead and ended up winning the game out of. So many games where you could have won down there. Um, Phil says I'm having some technical difficulties. Okay. Um, okay, we'll figure out what's going on there. Kevin said, "Oh, he's agreeing with Brad." Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's been 20 years. It's crazy to think. I do remember that game 20 years ago. I actually kind of rewatched it over the summer, a little bit the highlights, and I remember that 2003 game from rewatching a little bit. Tennessee struggled in the first half offensively. It was kind of an ugly first half, and then they opened it up in the second half and ended up winning that one. Um, yeah, I mean, I really want Tennessee to go down there and get this win badly. Uh, but it's gonna be a battle. Um, any other questions or comments? Let's see. This truly blows my mind. 20 years. Yeah, go back and watch that reel from the. We recorded on the podcast and we upload some videos, uh, uh, and we mentioned that in the reel. Nicholas says stingy defenses always creep up on you. They usually stay around the whole game. Solid defense usually keeps you in the game. Do you always have a shot at the end? I truly think the Vols have that. Yeah. Uh, Definitely. So I think you can definitely see that, Nicholas. We mentioned a lot of several of the players. Like I said, I think we're going to see Tim Banks really pressure Graham Mertz in this game. It seems like in these big games, that's when Tim Banks really dials up the pressure on the quarterbacks and really cause havoc with. I know last year we brought a lot of pressure with Anthony Richardson, but like I said, Anthony Richardson had his legs to back him up and really took off. And yeah, I think you're probably not going to see much running with Graham Mertz. Maybe running for his life. Brad says there's no doubt we have a much better team than Florida last year. We got to win this thing. Yes. Uh, Phil says we're going to cook up some gator meat this weekend. Yeah, absolutely. um, yeah, going back to Brad's comments, like I said there's no doubt we have a much better team than Florida. Uh, uh, there's no doubt we have a much better team than Florida this year. We got to win this thing. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Florida lost a lot of key players. We mentioned Anthony Richardson. They lost some offensive linemen, some guys to the transfer portal. Uh, just so it's going to be interesting to see how we really match up. Hey, we have a Florida fan that gave us a Go Gators on YouTube. That's all right. You are more than welcome. Just be kind. uh no, you don't. Okay, whatever. Uh Says we own Tennessee. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Anyways, uh yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun on Saturday. Should be very interesting to see what we do. Any other comments or questions? All quiet in here. Anyways, Brad says he loves the haters. Yeah, Brad fuels off of them. Yeah, should be a lot of fun. Saturday, 7 o'clock, down at the Swamp, Tennessee, Florida. Octavian says 30-27, Florida. Okay, that's fine. Not good as your last game. All right. It's all good. It's all good. Um, I will say this, Octavian. I think this is a big game for y'all. Your coach needs a win, but you can't be running your coaches off like we used to. At least we found ours. Big game for Sun Belt Billy. Greg says ready for Saturday and the atmosphere in the swamp. Are you going down there, Greg? If you are, that's pretty awesome. And just be careful representing Tennessee. Um, yeah, it's going to be a great atmosphere, definitely. I know the fans are going to be ready. And like I said, hopefully our team will be ready and Joe Milton will be ready. And big time, big time road game. Start the SEC season. Um, like I said, we don't have a lot of injuries per se. I mean, I know. I mean, we talked about Cooper Mays. We talked about Keenan Peely. Those are two big losses, but none of our skilled people. None of our skilled people, for the most part, are out. So that's a good sign. For the most part. Greg says, did people watch the Utah game and their performance against a smaller defense? Yeah, they lost to a third and fourth string quarterback. There, Greg. I mean, it was pretty eye opening. They looked very vanilla in that last game, and I know they, I guess, performed a little bit better. Uh, A little bit better against McNeese, but you can only take so much. Greg says, "Yes, we will be there. It'll be a good time." That's awesome. Have a great time down there, and definitely keep us posted on Ball Society. How'd your experience go? We're going to be watching it at home this week. Uh, as far as kind of the rest of the season goes, I will be at the UTSA game. Brad will be down at the South Carolina game, and I will be at the Texas A&M game. So that's kind of the Fall Society schedule as of now for the next 3 home games for the most part. Brad says, "I truly hope we beat the snot out of those Gators." Definitely so. Any other comments or questions? Need to up all this. Anyways, also while you're here, uh, don't forget, if you go on our Facebook page, the Vol Society store, click shop now. We got t-shirts, we got hoodies, we got hats, we got water bottles, we got all the cool stuff you kids want. That's the Vol Society store. Really cool stuff for the football season, if you will. Greg says, "Do you see Cooper? Do you see Cooper is back?" It's 50-50 right now. It's very questionable. Josh Heupel's, like I said, just kind of dodged the answer. To be honest, he warmed up with the team. Uh, he warmed up with the team last week, but they made the coaching decision not to let him play. So it's 50-50. If he plays, great. If he doesn't play, I'm not really surprised either. The offensive line really has done really good without him. Believe it or not. Let's see. Greg says, and the players had a closed meeting Monday. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Yeah. So hopefully they ironed out some stuff there. Uh, but we'll see with Cooper. Like I said, they do a good job running the ball. Even without Cooper's absence, they've made some holes. It's just kind of the pass protection a little bit, but some of that's on the quarterback. Phil says, hey, there are going to, uh, I guess they're going to unloose Squirrel pretty much. Uh, yeah, hopefully Squirrel can really step up. Joey says, what exactly happened to Cooper? I think he has a Brad, you may have to help me out. I think he had a ankle injury. He's been battling it since fall camp. Uh, he heard it during fall camp and just has not been practicing. Hasn't really been playing. He's been warming up and working out the team. It's just hasn't seen any gameplay, but it's an ankle injury. It's been battling since camp. Um, Greg says I kind of understand Josh to say he was ready last week. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, definitely so. Oh yeah, Brad says hernia surgery. I thought. I don't know. Okay, another fan on the YouTube talking about our Florida fan. Go troll. Go troll somewhere else. I'd say he's been kind of quiet. He said his thing and he left. Uh, Usually I don't. I mean, I don't care if you're a Florida fan or a Bama fan or Georgia fan, and yeah, if you want to troll on here, that's cool. The only thing we say is don't get too personal or don't be an idiot out of it. If you want to say go Gators or give your score predictions, that's fine. We're going to respect you. May not agree with it, but as long as you're classy and just do your thing and move on, that's cool. Nicholas says Milton will throw 5 touchdowns against the Geckos. That'd be huge. That'd be great if he could do it. Yes. Brad says Florida fan page not as good as ours, so they come to ours. Yeah, yeah. There was a kind of a sidetrack story here. So there's a Georgia fan page. I noticed this earlier this year. I didn't know this is a real page, but there was a Georgia fan page on Facebook called Hunker Dogs that I guess the week we played Georgia, they took a lot of our screenshot. They screenshot a lot of our posts and like totally like made fun of us. And yeah, that's fine or whatever. Well, apparently one of us apparently blocked them, and they had a field day of that because hey, we finally got blocked by Vols Society. Which looking back, kind of glad we did because they took a lot of our material, but you know, let them be themselves. I guess I don't know. Memphis says Octavian is Uncle Lou troll. Yeah. Although Uncle Lou, the Super Georgia fan, he's he actually thinks we'll still win by 20 down there, and I hope he's right on that one, unless he's changed his mind. I know it. He was says guaranteed Vol fans you're going to win by 30, but hey, whatever. Greg says Florida's offense plays right into our defense. They run to set up the play action passing. Yep, absolutely. Uh, yeah, like I said, if we can stop Johnson and ETN, I think we've got a really good shot. I just don't see Mertz being the playmaker like Anthony Richardson was last year, unless we just unless he just totally exposes us and we let him do it. I mean, there's some talent on that Florida team, but I think we've got a more depth roster than them and better quality players, honestly. Uh, Continue on. Greg says Mertz definitely cannot handle the pressure, and I got a feeling he's going to see a bunch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the thing is with Mertz, he's a transfer from Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was primarily a running team in the Big Ten, and now you're coming into the SEC. It's just I'm afraid he's going to kind of have a hard time, and Florida had a really great chance of picking up a quarterback in the transfer portal. I mean, they missed out on Sam Hartman. They missed out on uh, Jeff Sims, which he's not doing much better at Nebraska. Missed out on him. Missed out, a lot of guys, and they settled for Graham Mertz from Wisconsin, and I just don't know. Just don't really see it working out. But yeah, yeah. I mean, kind of you have to go with who you got. I know they missed out on Rashada, the quarterback that committed to Florida and then decommitted. Now he's at Arizona State and doing fairly well down there at Arizona State. So and just kind of had mishandled quarterbacks. They really, I mean, yeah, Anthony Richardson is a first round draft pick, although he didn't have the flashiest career at Florida either. He had a solid career, but he didn't really have a flashy career. I mean, there really hasn't been like a juggernaut quarterback at Florida since Tebow, to be honest with you. Kyle Trask had a decent run here and there, um, and I know I'm probably going to miss somebody, but I mean, like a Kyle Trask, I know. Austin Appleby wasn't anything. Richardson was okay. And now you're with Mertz. So yeah, I mean, what could have been pretty much. Any other questions or comments? I think we'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. Like I said, don't forget the podcast is available. Good old Rocky Talk available where you get your podcasts with Brad Frank, our founder, myself, David Dees. Uh, just yeah, just getting ready for the big game. Brad says great show, ready for Saturday. Yeah, ready for Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have tailgate Thursday at noon. A quick college football preview with myself. Under 10 minutes to uh, talk about the upcoming games. Make sure you spell it out so they know. Okay. Uh, And Greg says, I believe we will see Joe at his best Saturday. Joey says, love your show. God bless you. God bless you too. Like I said, we'll have Tailgate Thursday at noon. Quick 5 to 10 minute preview of all the games coming up. Actually, going to be recording that right after we're done. And you'll get to see that on Thursday. The podcast, Good Old Rocky Talk, available right now. When you're looking for the podcast, it's not Rocky Top, it's Talk, Talk. So when you spell it out, and also O is OL. So GOODOLROCKYTALK. Good Old Rocky Talk. Uh, Best podcast out there for Tennessee football. Most entertaining podcast too. And then, like I said, we'll have some more Gator Hater Week content coming up throughout the week. We'll probably still throw some jokes in there from Brad bringing us the our joke of the day. Always fun and entertaining. And then we'll get ready for UTSA. That UTSA game will be at 4:00 the following Saturday. They announced that on Monday, so planning on that. Phil says, thanks everyone at Vol Society. Thank you, Phil, for being part of Vol Society and following us along and watching us tonight. But we'll have all that. Like I said, we'll get ready for the Gators on Saturday, and then next week we'll focus on the Roadrunners. We'll have another podcast recapping the Florida game and previewing UTSA. Every Monday, we will also share out the Josh Heupel press conference so you can watch along, whether you're at work or lunch or at home. Make sure you check it out also. And then we'll have the live stream next Tuesday night. Like I said, thank you for being a part of it. For Vol Society, for everyone in our Vol Society crew, for Brad Frank in the chat room. I'm David Morrison. Thank you for being a part of it. Let's go beat the Gators on Saturday. Have a great night. Be kind to each other. Take care of each other. And respect each other. And we'll talk to y'all next Tuesday night on Vol Society Live. Have a great night and go Vols.